So here we are, Princes of the Universe, here at Forbidden Worlds Film Festival 2026, and we are talking Highlander.
We're doing Highlander from 1986. I've never seen this before. And Dan, what is the reason that you said about Princes of the Universe?
So the original title was The Shadow Clan and the Princes of the Universe, which is also the title track from Queen on the soundtrack.
Amazing. Now, this is the second or third time we've tried to record this because the lights have gone out and then the TV was going weird.
There's been a quickening!
There has been. We're getting all lightning and crazy. But I've never seen Highlander before. Dan, you've seen it, what, twice? And then you've also seen
twice,
Highlander 2, and then you read some of the prequel comics.
Yeah, so
it's on your Patreon? Or
it is, yeah. Well, they're now on the main feed to help promote with Forbidden Worlds, but I do have two that are going to come out very, very soon that are going to be back on the exclusive Patreon. Paul, a Kurgan origin story, and also a kind of at the beginning of an ongoing series. I will let you know what kind of quality they are, so tune in later. But we're not talking about them now, we're talking about the 1986 Highlander, and I am very interested, Mike, being your very first watch. I saw it when I was a teenager, and I didn't really care for it, I'll be honest. I saw it again kind of more recently in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, and I really embraced its kind of silly, campy, cheesy nature.
It's silly?
Yeah, it can be.
It's very silly.
But I'm very interested to see where you fall on it, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. It was pretty much a sold-out screening. We had is it Edna Beatty? Yes. Or Bettany. She plays Conor McLeod's wife, or one of his wives in the film. As an immortal. And yeah, absolutely sold out. Everyone was well on board, really enjoying it. A lot of laughter, a lot of jokes.
There's quite a few who hadn't seen it as well.
Yes,
probably seen maybe a third.
I'd say
so.
A third. Yeah,
I thought it was just gonna be me. I thought it was when he said, I think it was Ty who said, "Who hasn't seen this film?"
Yeah,
and then I put my hand on the so did the third. I was like, oh, it was actually quite
good.
a few.
And that's good. That's a good sign as well that people know or familiar with it, that they will go out and buy a ticket. And again, 4K restorations from Studio Canal, 40th anniversary.
Yes,
it's all coming together. And yes, so you were sat there, you chimed in, you knew nothing going in, pretty much.
Yep.
What did you think to Highlander?
The film is pretty dreadful, but it's very entertaining. Very entertaining, but it is quite bad. In like an honest metric of it.
Sure.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Very happy I watched it. Will I watch it again? Don't know. I
think what you said is true, is that on paper it shouldn't be as good as it is, or as enjoyable as it is.
It's very entertaining, very enjoyable, but so much of it is bad. Like the main actor is terrible.
Christophe Lambert
is not. He's not good in this role at all. Why they chose a French person to try and do like a Gaelic Scottish accent of a guy who's living in New York, I don't know. So if you're like me and you don't know anything about Highlander, probably the only last person on earth who doesn't, is Highlander. It's a story about a group of immortals, and they basically have to fight and kill each other, because eventually when there's one left over, they get this ambiguous amount of power and knowing and stuff. And so
they've come down through the ages.
Yes.
Awaiting the time of the gathering.
Thanks, Mr. Connery. So basically, the main character is Connor MacLeod, and he's essentially in Scotland 450 odd years ago, prior to like the 1980s, and you get the modern day story of him in New York, and then you get flashbacks to him finding out that he was immortal, his training with Sean Connery, who's another immortal, and then a random little World War II scene to show his relationship with his secretary, who he kind of adopted, and then the rest of it is really modern day of like him and the last other immortal fighting. That's it in brief. Now that sounds relatively straightforward. It's not. The first scene is bonkers and crazy, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" It's a fighting in a New York car park.
So we open on a wrestling match with the Freebirds, who are a real wrestling team in the WWE and WCW, and he's sat there, and then very intensely, but he's flashing back to like the Scottish Highlands and the kilts, very Braveheart, all of that.
He has the worst accent I've ever heard anyone in any film. I genuinely say Tommy Wiseau, The Room, is the only comparable accent, and Tommy Wiseau just talks like that. But like Chris Lambert, I think he's trying to do Scottish,
definitely.
But I would say 1 in 100 words sounds vaguely Scottish.
Yes,
and that's not an exaggeration. There are points where he talks, and you're like, I couldn't pinpoint what accent he is and what accent he was trying to do.
I will give it to this. Again, as I just read before we started recording, he didn't know English when he was being sought after.
Which is
he couldn't speak English, and also very much a Frenchman, very, very French, and him trying to even get down that accent must have been difficult while also still trying to master English.
Well, yeah, and again, it's not necessarily a slight on him, but he just shouldn't have done it.
No, yeah,
obviously,
exactly.
when your agent's like, you could get paid quite a lot of money, you could work with Sean Connery, or this great opportunity. The actor's generally not going to say no, but if it was like the only caveat is you need to do a Scottish accent, he should have just gone, I can't do that.
I mean, you look like we were talking about The Abyss not so long ago, and like we talked about how fucking mad most of the decisions were, and the way and like all these films are kind of mad little hopeful kind of things where you're hoping something works out, something pays off, and Highlander is a lot of moving parts that really shouldn't have gone together, which I think is like you've described it, I think that's a wonderful way of putting it, because it is very enjoyable. I have a lot of fun with it. It's exhilarating. I like the historical aspect. I like seeing the different eras. I like the tragic torment of the character, him not being able to love really and not have a family and stuff. There is a lot of kind of elements. There's a lot of moving parts that I like. I agree with you. I don't think it is a perfect film by any stretch.
No, I think you'd be mad if you said that.
But it is fun. It's enjoyable, and there is something to it. And there's a reason it did so well on VHS, which led to the several films that were made, that led to the TV show, the cartoon,
series,
the video games, the toys, the collectibles, you name it. Like,
this is definition of cult classic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you said it didn't do that well in the box office either. And the thing is with this film is, I think the core, as the script itself, the core idea of the script is so original, so clever, so brilliant. It is really, it's very Wolverine-y, to be honest.
Absolutely.
It's super original. It's actually just Wolverine, but without superpowers, kind of.
But but to be fair, even Wolverine then didn't. It
wasn't until Days of Future Past, was it?
Yeah, so he was a tortured like samurai and stuff. They were doing stuff like that, but they didn't, because they never revealed until the early 2000s. We didn't know how old he was.
Right, so it is pre-Wolverine. Okay,
so it's pre-Wolverine.
So it's even better. So it's like, this idea is really original, of like, an immortal who's not literally a god.
No,
because when you've got deities that are beyond, that's different. Like Merlin,
this guy just can't be killed, and he can survive apart from having the head cut off.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
And it's one of those things where it was like, the idea is so original, and you could, from that idea, there's like 3 or 4 incredible stories you could tell, and they don't really tell any of them that well. They kind of half do all of them.
Yeah.
But and also everything about this uneven. It's like it's the most disequilibrium of any film I've ever seen, because you've got like really clever, really well thought out bits, and the bits that are not well thought out at all in any way. You've got acting that is like so over the top and so amazing, and then you've got other acting that's so bad. And every single part of this film has got like a bit about it that's really great, and a bit about it that's equally or maybe more so shit. Just every element, and it's so hard to kind of like wrap your head around.
I think this is why I brought up, like, I tried to repair Mike, because like you're a big Lord of the Rings fan, Game of Thrones fan, and that is like quality fantasy, like that's top tier fantasy, elevated fantasy, if you will. Not that I like that term, but anyway. And I was like, just, lower your expectations a little bit with the 80s and with the 90s and 2000s and stuff. It's not all going to be like at that level.
There's a reason Lord of the Rings is held as one of the greatest film choices of all time.
However, Highlander is considered a big, like a very not successful in the box office financially, but like it gave birth to so much and widened the scope of what a fantasy film could be.
It showed the yearning. It showed that there was an appetite for it for audiences, and it I think so much of the films of Forbidden Wars have really shown that Lord of the Rings, for the most part, although the book was out before all of these things, so all of these things actually
are
inspired by the books of Lord of the Rings. And obviously there was the animated Lord of the Rings movie that got unfinished, that was released in the 60s or something, or 80s, somewhere around that era.
The animated one, yes. Yeah, so Ralph Bakshi, who does Fire and Ice, which we're going to see later, he did, part 1, but they never did part 2 of it.
There was a high chance that Lord of the Rings, when it got made, was going to be terrible. And even before Peter Jackson went on to make it, which is the most bananas director ever, to choose Lord of the Rings, who did, and I'm a big Star Wars fan, as everyone knows, the Lord of the Rings trilogy I think is flawless. Extended or well, not flawless, but extended or standard edition, both are the best trilogy I think in existence, to be honest. But like with Highlander and with the other Forbidden Worlds picks, is they've all got something.
Yeah.
Well, except Clan of the Cave Bear. I'm really sorry, Sam.
One of the worst films you've ever seen.
I'm really sorry, Sam.
Not the worst
of Espence and Spirit. I am really sorry.
Yeah.
I think Fear.com is a worse film.
Sure.
That is the worst film I've ever seen. Yeah, I think that film is dreadful in every metric. But so apologies to anyone who likes that film. That film did not add anything to this festival for me, except my experience of seeing it. But excluding that, every other film we've seen, Pathfinder, Brotherhood of the Wolf, Lady Hawk, Excalibur, they've all got something. And this has got lots of somethings, but not one thing. It's not like this is the thing that makes the movie. It's got like rifling through the pockets of fantasy films, like change, of like just enough change to buy the thing in a weird metaphor. And it's so weird.
It's like you've bought a £5 thing, but you've bought it with 1p.
Yeah, like coppers.
Yeah, coppers.
And you've just somehow of an amalgamation of like it's almost like a Frankenstein in a way. Of just getting all these bits that
I guess all films in a sense, in a way, it is a Frankenstein. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of jigsaw puzzles you got to put together.
I think it depends, because I think with things like The Abyss and James Cameron movies, that is usually one person's vision as a through line. All of George Lucas's stuff, although there's other directors and stuff, it generally is one through line. Things based on books. Although things get changed, you've got that core thing. This is an original idea. It's written by the director, wasn't it?
Yeah, not by the director.
No, sorry, because he found the script.
Yeah, he got the script, but so he had to adapt it or find a way to bring it to life.
Which, technically speaking, would be very difficult to do.
Yeah. And I think
period piece mixed with sci-fi.
There was a lot of changes. It did not, the original script did not end up on screen.
No,
but the initial the core idea is there.
Yeah.
And we see, and the producers were fucking around a bit, and there were money was not being spent correctly.
Yeah.
And being,
which happened in the 80s.
Shocker, like
well, even nowadays with bloody Warner Brothers.
Yeah, so that was the issue. But
I think the man is so many concepts here which I really like, which is being an immortal being and not being able to have like a lover, watching them die. That's a big thing in like Doctor Who. That comes up a lot in that.
Comes up in like vampire films as well.
Yes.
Or they're like or reincarnated lovers.
Yeah, but in Vampire, the kind of the decision is, should I turn you and you're weak to be together forever? But in Doctor Who, one of the reasons he tries not to be close to people is because that always happens. It's always these deity like beings. So that can be done really well. It wasn't done that well in this. I think the small scenes which has got the woman in who we saw, what's the character's name?
Heather, yeah.
So with the Heather stuff, I thought that was really nice and tastefully done.
Yeah.
They kind of spoil it a bit at the end with a certain line of dialogue, which we'll get into in a bit. But I think that is quite tastefully done. The other ones are not as well done. The woman at the start is quite a big actress. That was just weirdly bonkers, where they're like, "You're immortal. Burn him! Burn him! Get him!" It's like, whoa, this is intense.
Yeah.
That bit I was like, okay, you got like warring clans. Do you think that'd be really valuable, having someone who's immortal, whatever? Yeah. And then the modern day love story is awful, but
not great. No, that's one of my least favorite parts. I think they don't have much chemistry. They don't spend that much time together.
It's a long sex.
Basically, I think her role in the film is to go like, because we sort of see glimpses of the life, but we don't really know the full story until we get right to that point.
Yeah.
Like, that's when all the pieces kind of coming together.
Yes.
Like, you get an idea, you got a gist that he's obviously can't die, he's immortal. We've met Ramirez at this point, but, like, how has he managed to, like, almost like the kind of admin side of it.
Yeah.
Like, he takes, babies die, and he takes the birth certificate and the name, and
which all that stuff's very clever.
yeah, sure.
She was a really interesting character, and I liked her all the way up to the point where they have sex, which shouldn't have happened. Yeah. She shouldn't have been a romantic lead. I know it always happened in the 80s, only in modern day, but still,
Sure.
It shouldn't have been a romantic person. It could have maybe right at the very end,
Sure.
they maybe do one kiss, or one little kiss or something, to be out this crazy thing we've been through together. Yeah. But they literally kiss, and you go, okay, they've kissed, and they kiss for a while. And you're like, okay, and then they have sex for ages, and then it's the proper nude scenes, and actual like, full-on thrusting going on with like a backlight silhouette.
I think it would have. Yeah, I think it would have worked better if he constantly said no, up until, spoilers for the film, he wins the prize.
Yeah.
And then he goes, oh, now I'm mortal. Now we can finally be together.
But it just comes out of nowhere. And then literally from that point, she loses any agency. And all she does, apart from
distress,
all she does is scream. But except those 2 or 3 weird dialogue exchanges when they're at the zoo or something.
Yes, your favorite line. I was listening. I was like, I wonder, like, because I wasn't entirely sure. It's hard sometimes to gauge whether someone's enjoying something when you're sat next to them in the dark, and you're like, I wonder if he's enjoying this. And like, it got to that point, and I just heard Mike.
What's the line she says?
So the line is, so, and which is really the annoying thing is Connor still has sex with her, and bangs her. Wake up in the morning and goes, yeah, I can't fall in love though. I can't be with you. Bye. But I still had sex with you though.
Yeah.
And she goes, you know what your problem is? Most people are afraid of dying. You're afraid of living. And I just hear Mike go, oh, God, groan,
most people
sigh.
Most people are afraid to die, but you're afraid to live. And it's like,
he's a bit cheesy. And I was like, that's the cheese I remember.
It's
that's the mozzarella, the latest red Leicester cheese string.
So her whole thing, unfortunately, her character is really interesting and has loads of agency, and then just gets completely ruined.
I mean, she does come up with a lead pipe at the end and distracts the Kurgan for a little bit.
Yeah, for a second.
Yeah, but
outside of that,
I agree. It's not. I feel similarly about the Clan of the Cave Bear, where it's like he's trying to say a feminist thing, but doing it really fucking like poorly. Like,
I think all the female characters are written badly.
Yeah,
Heather is nice, but the thing is, there's a point where she's trying to like get involved with Connor, and he's like, "Get away, woman! Go over there while I talk to Sean Connery."
Yeah. And even the first wife who calls him a devil, they're like, he's a Highlander. He can't listen to women dying. While he's dying, he can't listen to women crying. Like, why?
So every era he's in is just women being second class citizens or not valued.
Exactly.
Okay, that's one thing as we've kind of discussed. Then the editing was quite clever in a way. I do think the scene they chose at the start was wrong. I don't think they should have done that.
The wrestling.
They should have started with the Scottish thing.
Yeah.
Then done the weird car parky stuff. Then gone back, and that would have been fine. It was just the wrestling bit, and then the car park fight was.
I agree.
So weird.
Part of me thinks if you told it chronologically, would it work?
I'm not saying chronologically. I'm just saying the first.
Yeah, those two. Flip those.
Instead of going car park weird wrestling windows,
Highlander,
then do that.
Wrestling. Yeah.
Because that could have been the cool.
There's some really I like Russell Mulcahy as a director. I think he's really stylish. He's really interesting. Like they talked about the transitions he does.
They were great.
Yeah, really cool. I like Razorback. Sam talked about Razorback. They introduced it at one of the horror festivals for Forbidden World. And again, that's a very stylish film. Again, you did Duran Duran videos, music videos, which you can kind of tell there's a lot of that aspect to it. Like he's really good at visuals. I think it's visually quite a stunning film.
I think most films of this era, they last because of the visuals. It's like the visual and
iconic
music.
Yeah, I would say a Highlander is iconic.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it did a lot. Whether people know it or not, it did so much for pop culture and for movies and things. So there's that bit with the start is a bit jarring, but I got over that because it was kind of setting the tone in a way.
Yeah, because we do keep flipping back and forth to the past and to the present, past, present.
You've got Chris Lambert, who, excluding the worst accent on the planet, he can't. I think this may be the direction, but really, he was simultaneously this really weird, kind of stoic, withdrawn character, but also the other half the time, he was kind of like a pseudo wisecracking, eccentric guy.
Oddball.
But whenever he was the eccentric oddball, I say half, it's probably about 20% of the time he was doing that. it was actually funny.
Yeah.
It was funny. It was like, oh, he's a 450-year-old dude.
Yeah.
He's weird.
I see why
crazy
she's
things.
falling in love with him.
But he was barely... The majority of something was like that was actually when he was with Heather in the past. And when he says
Otherwise,
funny...
he's aggressive, really aggressive with the cops, really aggressive with the police, and he's wearing a trench coat, which is for me. Like I think I saw a fashion ad recently, and they're like trying to bring back the trench coat, and I was like, I don't think you can. It's for flashers and public wankers.
Yeah, and people like hiding contraband.
Or shotguns or swords or something.
Yeah, it's
you can't make the trench coat cool.
Not especially the light beige thin trench coat.
It's for
leather one is like goths.
It's for Ninja Turtles, and it's for Fantastic Four members who are made of rock,
and also for 3 kids trying to get into a cinema.
Yes,
like
those I'll accept. Everything else, like if I went out and wore a trench coat, people would think I'm weird.
If it's a black leathery trench coat, people think you're goth.
Duster, yeah.
But if it's not that,
or your Matrix,
or if it's not that, it's anything else. But so it was really weird. I really didn't like the character of Connor. He's just not likable. But when he's being smiley and nice with Heather, I'm like, oh, I get it. Yeah. He's kind of like, oh, he's withdrawn because he's so depressed and lonely and stuff. But it didn't. If he's a bit more wisecracking, and a bit weird, and he just says weird shit randomly, and I'm like, that should be more because that was funny. There are
two very, very two. You're right. There's the stoic, swordsman, tragic figure, errant knight or whatever you want to call him.
It's boring.
And then you've got him like trying. Because I feel like as an actor and as a person, he's a bit of a kooky character.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a weirdo. And I think that's him coming through.
They were all the best.
That's the real him coming through. But obviously the story doesn't necessarily call for that. So, but I feel like that's him trying to I've got to give it something. I've got to give...
The film either needed to be serious and lean into the loneliness and the... immortality thing and the trauma and like dying, like not being able to die, and like what that does to someone
psychologically.
With Wolverine, with Doctor Who, people like that, like it always goes through you. They go through the phases. Have that, or you do the more silly stuff of like how eccentric and weird he'd be because he's like a 450-year-old Scottish bloke who's immortal, keeps having fights, that keeps kind of dying but not like. And one or the other would have been good, but they try to do both at once, and it doesn't work. And unfortunately, adding to the fact that his accent is so weird. It means that the serious stuff, you can't understand a lot of what he's even saying.
Yeah,
because the accent's so bad. So he's trying to have a serious conversation about meaningful things.
There's a lot of dubbing. There's a lot of overdubbing in this,
and that was also confusing. Yeah. So it's like the stoic serious stuff doesn't work for multiple reasons. So they should have just leaned on the weird kooky stuff.
Another thing I noticed this time as well was that the Kurgan comes in to kill Ramirez in that scene in the tower. The film, the tower.
I love the tower fall.
Yeah, that's crazy. Great. That whole sequence is great. But there's a line which does. It's a real actor thing for me because I would pull this if I was doing a play.
Yeah,
I would pull this up. Either it's a performance note or it's a writing note. So Clancy Brown comes in with the voice. He's like, "I'm the Kurgan, and I'm gonna kill you, Ramirez." He slashes his throat, goes to kind of cut his head off, doesn't quite, and he's like, and then he goes to speak again, and he goes, I've improved your voice. And it's like, no, it's the same voice.
I thought that.
Ramirez. The Highlander. Where is he?
You're too late. I've prepared him for you.
You waste your time. Now you die. You cannot win, Ramirez. I am the strongest.
My cut has improved your voice.
I was like, and if it was me as a director, I'd go, so before you get this, you can't be as gravelly. You need to be a more of a normal sounding voice.
Yeah.
But it is just Clancy Brown's voice. He might just kind of up it a little bit, but I didn't find...
That's what I thought. I thought I'd miss something. Yeah.
And I thought that's an interesting thing. And clearly... I've been in shows or I've seen shows. I saw a show with one of the guys from Steps. I think it was Lee from Steps.
Yeah,
and he was doing this Look Fringe thing, and there was a line. The following line from the female character he was speaking to is, Stop shouting at me. He didn't shout.
Yeah.
And it makes him look shit.
Yeah.
And she has to say that line because and I would go, well, that line indicates that the response indicates that you are shouting now.
Yeah.
So for me, that line indicates that your voice has changed because you've had your throat cut, your larynx cut. So it's going to sound different. So we need to, maybe even only in that scene.
Yeah.
Make sure your voice sounds different before and then after.
Yeah, and also the whole thing is that I thought it was, with the whole time thing, the way it was edited, I thought it was cool because when he got his throat cut, I was like, oh, that's why he's got the scar in modern day.
Exactly.
And it's clever, but so again, there's so many threads that are really clever and well thought out, and then there's bits like that just kind of pull you out a bit. And so I want to talk, so I've shouted Chris Lambert quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then there's the two performances I think that stood out that are amazing, which I imagine everyone loves, is Sean Connery. I'm going to smack the woman.
That's your favourite guy. Your favourite guy.
Sean Connery is such a good actor, and Last Crusade is my favourite Indiana Jones film, and I think he makes that film. He's so good. Him and Harrison Ford's chemistry is some of the best on-screen chemistry I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's a great actor. He is probably a massive prick, though. And there's interviews of him saying he slaps women, and he's doubled down on it several times, which is why I make the Joker voice.
True.
You got to slap the woman.
Yeah.
You got to, if she steps out of line, you got to slap her. And it's like,
Slap Connery.
Yeah. My name is Slap Connery. You've got to just slap him back into the line. But he's got such a presence.
Yeah.
And whenever I see him on screen, I'm like, I don't want to like you because you are kind of a prick. But as soon as he's on screen, his charisma's oozing charisma. He's wearing this ridiculous outfit. Yeah. He's apparently an Egyptian man. He's living in Spain.
the whitest, most Scottish Egyptian.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna make fun of fucking Christophe Lambert and his accent,
this is it.
He's a very white Egyptian, and he's not even close to being Spanish.
He says one Spanish word randomly.
Mr. Entitlement, Mr. White Entitlement.
And it's funny because the whole film Highlander is about Connor being Scottish, and you could have just had Sean Connery being a Scotsman who just has been travelling the world, and that's why they've never interacted. And that would make coherent sense. And it's like, you're wearing weird fancy garbs. And it's like, because I've been travelling in Spain, and he's married to a Japanese woman at one point, and you're like, you just don't say he's Egyptian. You just say, I know we wrote that in the script. Let's just say he was Scottish and he's travelled the world, and it would fix everything. And he would
literally, like, there's so many films I watch, I'm like, just change that line. You change that line, you fixed it. Like, they used to do it with Jean-Claude Van Damme films and Arnie films. To go, even the Incredible Hulk film with Tim Roth, he plays a Russian character, but he goes, born in Russia, raised in England, done.
That's it. And
job done. Like, that is it. That's all you have to say. And I'm go, yeah, fine.
100%. And this is the thing, and it's like, so that the accent of Sean Connery, non-existent accent, and Sean Connery can't do accents. He's one of those guys, a bit like Statham.
I think and the thing is, it's like a Jean-Claude Van Damme film. There is always a line about the accent. Yeah. And there's one in this, which is very showgirlsy, because there's a line in Showgirls where they're like, where'd you come from? She's like, different places.
Yeah.
And here he's like, where are you from now? She sounds kind of weird. And he's like, lots of places.
Yeah. But that line is funny, but
but you know that's in there because they know his accent is bad and it's not going to work. Because I did a show when I did an Irish accent, and they made us put a line in just in case my Irish accent was bad, and it was a comedy anyway, so we could make a joke about it.
Well, that's the thing.
But my accent was actually pretty good anyway, so it's still kind of...
And Highlander, if they'd have leaned in way more on the accent, if everyone who meets him go, what is up with your accent? It would... Us as the audience would be on his side being like, oh, he does talk really fucking weirdly. Yeah. And that would make sense. And it could be a running joke of the film, but it's kind of not.
You know what you do? If you're casting a Frenchman, call it The Libertine.
Yeah.
And then start it there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's a very different story, but if you take the immortal concept and go, right, he is, he's a musketeer. He's a French revolutionary.
Oh, no, you have him in Scotland, and then after Heather dies, you just make him go to France.
Yeah.
For you have to really play around with him trying to sound as Scottish as possible in those early scenes, or. As you say, you make him start off being French, and then he lives in Scotland for a while, and then the whole plot. You just have one scene where he's maybe even a baby, and then a kid, and then a teenager, and then he moves to Scotland for some reason, and he gets adopted by a Scottish family or something somehow. Yeah, hand wavy away film logic,
which is and that's very much a Jean-Claude Van Damme film.
Yeah. And then that's it. And then you're sorted. You have one little scene, a reshoot of just 2 minutes of just him being French, and that's what you don't even need. You could do it in the same place. You say we're in the French meadows, in South France. No one cares. So. But the thing is, Sean Connery, you got me to say the accent thing. you can ignore that. But he's so charismatic. He's so fun. He's having a great time, seemingly. Which a lot of the time he seems to not be having a great time. But when he's grumpy, it works. But in that, he seemed like he was having a ball. If he wasn't on screen for that early bit, it would have completely lost me, I think. Because those scenes, everything Connor's doing is boring, and the dialogue is terrible from Connor. Can't understand what the hell he's saying, and there's no working out how much better he's getting is really hard because the montage is kind of shit.
Yeah, it's not.
And it's like, what is? But you've just got Sean Connery's lighting up the screen.
Yeah.
The other performance, I don't know if you want to say anything else about it.
I mean, yeah, I can't disagree with you. I think he has very limited screen time, but you remember him.
100%.
You know, you do know what he's doing. You know what he's about. Again, he tells us all the information the audience knows.
Yeah.
And obviously it is a bit like, and you don't know this, and you're like, and we are the audience, and Connor is the audience as well.
But they make the joke so it makes the dialogue a little bit less shit.
Yeah.
But again, because of Connor's accent is so weird, half of the times I think he's making a joke, but you can't really tell.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it works for me because he's young. He's a young immortal. He's new to this, doesn't understand it, and we need somebody to set up the rules. And again, this is him like explaining why that first scene happened.
Yeah,
as well, because we don't know the context of that.
It's a great way of exposition.
Yeah,
it's a very standard thing in this.
And I think in a way breaking it up like that is a good thing because we slowly learn about the world and kind of almost retroactively we're learning as we go.
I think so because I think if you had all the New York scenes bunched together, it would be kind of boring.
Yeah.
But if you have all the Scottish scenes together, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
But actually having them split, it's like, why is this? Because of this. Why is this? And it's like the pacing is weird, but it kind of works. It keeps you interested.
I think the segues between them aren't always great.
No.
I think like the Rachel one that introduces his adopted daughter from World War II is like, oh, what are you talking about, Rachel? And it's like flashback. What's your name? My name is Rachel.
Well, it's like a window smash.
Yeah, exactly. There's
and he kills a Nazi. And you're like, what?
And there's like, I think there were better segues to get. I think the visual transitions are good.
Yeah,
because he does that very well. But I think how we get into them, or how he's remembering them, or what's causing him to remember them.
Yeah,
and not like again the wrestling scene doesn't really linked to.
And it goes on for quite a while.
Yeah, it doesn't really go back to the Highlander, what we see, because they're riding off to battle, and like the wrestling is already going on.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, if they were wrestling and it went straight into the battle scene where he dies, that would make more sense for me. But again,
it's kind of jarring, like stop start a bit.
It's not, it's far from a perfect film.
No,
but
it's very, very, very flawed.
And the other performance I assume you're going to be talking about is the Kurgan.
With Clancy Brown, who is amazing in basically everything.
Yeah, you can't.
He's great in Punisher.
He's
great in SpongeBob.
Yeah, Mr. Krabs.
He's great in like the 4 different roles he does in Star Wars.
So Blue Steel was on a few years ago, which is a Jamie Lee Curtis movie where she's like a young cop and this guy is like a creepy stalker, and he plays a police officer and the main kind of romantic lead.
Okay.
And it's a really different role for him, but he nails it. It really works.
Because he's normally like an authoritative figure, like because he's in the Starship Troopers.
Yeah, he voiced Lex Luthor in the Superman animated series.
He's got such a good voice.
Yeah, he's amazing.
But like he normally plays either a mentor, authoritarian-ish figure, or he plays a scumbag. Yeah. Who's scary.
Yeah.
And they're the 2 main roles he does, but he does them both so well.
Yeah. He played Captain Stacy in The Spectacular Spider-Man, which was good, but he also played the Rhino as well, so he's doing both sides, 2 sides. But yeah, I love him as an actor. I think he's great.
Whenever he's in it, you always love him.
Yeah, I've always liked him, and I've always appreciated him, and when he pops up every now and again, I'm like, yeah.
And he's just so unhinged in this.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, it is really campy, and it is points where it is a bit too over the top.
Very over the top.
I was saying, like, before we recorded, I was like, he's acting at like 200%, and Chris Lambert is acting at like 40%.
Yeah.
And this is one of those reasons where it's just like, whoop, whereas Sean Connery's like perfectly 100%.
Yeah,
he is so evil.
He knows Sean Connery knows what film he's in,
which is so rare.
And I think Clancy Brown knows what role he's playing, but he has to play off the other. And that's why that scene with Sean Connery and Clancy Brown works, because they're both very over the top characters.
That is one of the best scenes.
Yeah,
and also where they're so bombastic.
Yes.
And they're smashing swords, and that's around the time you realise they're both these powerful mortal beings. And they're destroying this castle as they're fighting up the stairs, and like swinging, and like the walls are crashing open. I'm like, this is really good. And the throat slash, and I was like, this is obviously,
smashes the table.
Yeah, and it's just really cool, but it gets undercut a little bit by Heather just screaming a lot.
Yeah, weirdly, periodically, with no reference point. It's almost like, remember she's here.
Yeah.
You've got to remember she's here.
But then there is no reason for her being there.
Yeah. Until that line later.
But that also adds nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't add.
So it's really, she shouldn't have been there, because it would have made sense as well, because Connor's not there for no reason. We don't know why. And then Clancy Brown, Kurgan,
turns up.
He turns up, kills Sean Connery, but then...
Hello, pretty.
They grabs Heather by the throat, and then we later find out from a line that he raped her, because he says it.
Yeah.
But then she never mentioned that to Connor ever, and that's kind of like a weird tension bit in right in the end. But like, she never mentions it. We never see it, thank God.
Yeah.
But like, then the next scene we see back in the flashback is Connor and Heather just holding each other together, looking at the destroyed tower thing, being like, "We're going to continue our life," and then you see them continue their life, and I'm like, "So what happened to Kurgan?" He's been trying to kill Connor this whole time.
That's the problem with the immortal thing, is that you have to find a way to separate them.
Yeah.
Like in the comics, there's a lot, like, because in the comics all these characters are meeting, like Ramirez meets Kurgan several times, Connor meets several times. Again, not within the film, not shown in the film, but it's like, oh yeah, because they're immortal and they're much more long-lived, they must have crossed paths more than these times that we're seeing. Yeah, which is the case. But in those scenes, it's like a cannonball comes in and separates them, and they're like, "Next time, McLeod," that sort of thing. And that's the thing where you have to suspend your disbelief even more, is because like, oh well, why didn't you just do it now? Or why is he? Oh, he's injured, or he's now dead. He's on the floor. Why don't I just cut his head off now?
Exactly.
Like, oh, is that not part of the rules?
Yeah, there's these inconsistencies which seem quite obvious when, like, you think that when you watch when the directors and stuff, and it says we're watching the dailies and stuff, and like putting things together, you'd go, this doesn't make sense, this bit. And again, it's a thing where one little line here or there would make sense. And also, or just cut Heather out of that scene entirely.
Yeah.
And then you just have them off, and then they come back and go, what's happened to our tower?
Yeah.
And Kurgan's just like, I thought Connor was around him, but I found something better. Ramirez, where is he? And Ramirez is like, he's long gone. You've lost him. And he's like, I can still kill you. Kills him. He fucks off. And then Connor and Heather come back. And then that's Ramirez doing one thing to kind of save him again. And like, that's what a mentor would do. So it makes complete sense.
Because Connor said, I'm in love. I want to be with her. I want to stay with her. And he's like, don't do it. You're going to hurt yourself. It'll break your heart. Can't imagine being immortal and being heartbroken and depressed. It's insane. Don't do it. I came back from it, but some people don't. Blah blah blah, and then that would be it. But and that would be his big sacrifice, and he could go, yes, I do believe in their love. I believe he should be in love, and I do believe it will last. But she will eventually die. That's the tragedy of it. But it's unnecessary, but unfortunately it's kind of part of the parcel of these kind of era of films, unfortunately, and it is very fridgy. It's a way to motivate the hero to do the thing the hero needs to do.
Hey Rockefeller, how'd you like Candy? She said you were kind of kinky, huh?
Don't ever speak to me.
Look, I didn't mean it.
Don't ever speak to me again. Do you understand? Good.
I hope you get your head chopped off, asshole.
The Kurgan, I think, is a wonderful performance. I think it's over the top, it's campy, and I'm kind of sick to death of having like morally grey villains or like redeemable villains. Sometimes you do need people that are just fucking pure evil for the sake of being pure fucking evil. And for this film, you need that, and it works. It does work, and he's playing it. It's funny. It's kind of scary. It's disturbing. It's full on.
It's unhinged.
And I think. I think that's the point where they have. Again, I'm not kind of defending the rapist story part, but we see that he has weird or unusual sexual appetites earlier in the film, where he has the prostitute come in and they go, oh, she says you're really kinky, and it's like implying,
don't talk to me.
Don't you fucking talk about how kinky I am. and then we see that in the flashback in the ancient Scottish Highlands. But I honestly think it's an iconic performance. It's an iconic look. The armor at the start with the skulls.
Yeah, so
Black Knight is so awesome. Like so visually like interesting. Even his kind of punk look. Even when he shaves his head randomly at the end,
and just like half of it's not shaved. Like those chunks of it are saved.
Sometimes his eyes go completely black, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, why does that happen?
Yeah.
I wondered that at the end. I was like, "Why is that?"
Yeah, I think it's something to do with like the quickening and the prize, but they don't really explain. It's the thing with the lore in this is it's kind of like it's vague enough that you don't question it, or it's kind of
other people.
I'm sure you're questioning it, but I kind of think they're going like, here's just enough information that you need, and then maybe if people ask us on it or like, you know, question us, I can be like, oh well, there's this and there's that and that means this. But yeah, I love Clancy Brown. I think he's a consummate performer.
He's so good.
I don't think I've ever seen him give a bad performance off the top of my head. Iconic voice, and like he's huge and big and imposing.
It's his presence. That's the thing. It's like him and Sean Connery in this film really make. I think
100%.
I think Sean Connery wasn't in this, and it was like almost anyone else.
Yeah.
The first like hour of the film would just be a slog, and then I think Clancy Brown, even the ending is obviously predictable, and there's so much screaming in it from the love interest, his name escapes me, which is, especially in that last scene, I was like, oh, for so much what you can hear is a high pitched screaming over and over, and I'm like, okay, she's in distress. Like you're not helping the situation. You're an intelligent woman, seemingly. Like you've established she's intelligent. When they're having this big fight, you can scream.
I only think that's been like a change in maybe the last 10 or 15 years that we hear less screaming in films.
Thank God,
especially in like horror films.
Because even like 2005's King Kong, like that film, she just so much of the film. So much screaming. Yeah, I'm so sick of it.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like the film is enjoyable. It's not that good. But the last thing is the music.
Yes. Yeah. Queen on the soundtrack.
I do not like it.
Yeah.
I don't even know if the director liked it, because in that little intro thing, he was like, I asked for one song and we got 4. Lucky me. And I was like,
I felt that he meant the opposite. He was like, we asked for 1, they gave us 4.
But then he said, lucky me, or lucky
and
us.
He said he wanted Queen. He did say he wanted Queen. He said other people approached, but we really wanted Queen.
Yeah, because he said, like, Elton John approached. And I was like, I don't know.
Duran wanted to do it, and some others. I think he really wanted Queen.
I just think
Queen. He got a lot of Queen.
I just think with so much fantasy, I don't think songs of words work. I think for most films, to be honest,
I mean, this is a thing that they used to do, though. It's like they will make, you know, the Nightmare on Elm Street film will make a song about Nightmare on Elm Street with the vocals and the lyrics referencing the film and talking about characters.
I'm fine with that on the credits.
Yeah.
Or
sure.
on the credits when a trailer or something. Or if it's a comedy or certain things, I can understand. But I think when it's a fantasy film, which is about escapism and stuff, and then you've got songs from famous bands, I don't... And also Queen sounds just like Queen. You know when Elton John did...
I mean, you got like Daft Punk on Tron. It still kind of sometimes
but Daft Punk don't use vocals very much.
No, not vocals, but a famous band working on a film soundtrack.
Yeah, but they are... Daft Punk's personality is Tron Legacy.
Sure, yeah.
So, and that also is 2010. That's not a fantasy film.
No. But I'm using it as an example as a famous band doing music.
I'm not saying famous bands shouldn't do it. I mean, like Serge Tankian does it. System of a Down, he does a lot of stuff. I mean, I hate Bowie's songs in Labyrinth. I think they're awful. But the thing, Phil Collins' Tarzan, phenomenal soundtrack. Elton John, Lion King, phenomenal soundtrack. They can do it. It can work in the right context of the films.
Sure.
But with fantasy, having a fantasy films with lyrics in songs, it just takes away, because it's like I'm fine with it being a bit different, and there are points where there was Queen songs playing and you didn't hear the vocals. I was fine.
Sure,
but Freddie Mercury's vocals are so iconic, and are so clearly him, that the second it's like, oh, I'm listening to Queen now.
Yeah, it's great.
And I in the movie when there was 2 instances where it was on the radio, I'm like, okay, it's of the era. I'm more okay with that. But the fact it was kind of like,
I mean, the film opens with it. The opening credits start. Like we get the intro of it coming down through the ages, you know, the immortals, all this sort of stuff, and then it literally kicks off with like, this is Queen, we're here.
But it just doesn't jive for me at all with the stuff in the past. And it sometimes plays with the stuff in Scotland in the 1600s.
Sure.
So why are you playing Queen then? It was like if they did what Lady Hawk did, which was like having like orchestral things and like electronic things, and have all the electronic stuff in the modern day and all of the harmonic stuff in the past, that would work really well. But they don't.
That's the Tarantino thing, isn't it? He likes the juxtaposition of like playing whatever songs he likes in whatever era he likes.
Yes, which I think works in Pulp Fiction, and works I think in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I don't remember it being a factor in other stuff. I don't think he does it in Django.
He does do it in Django.
Does he?
It's in Django.
Okay. Well, I mean, I love that film. I can't remember the thing is, I love Trainspotting. It's my favorite film
But
ever.
I think
film. Trainspotting.
I also think that the fact that you don't think of it is just a Tarantino thing. You just going in and this is Tarantino.
I suppose Tarantino movies are almost their own genre.
Yeah,
because they're all very Tarantino-y, but they're not like other stuff.
Yeah,
being like Trainspotting, iconic film, iconic soundtrack, but a lot of that music really reflects what's going on in the film a lot more. Like there's so much of it, which works. But in this, Queen for me didn't jive with what I was seeing.
Yeah, I can agree. I like the songs. I think they are good songs. They're well made songs. Yeah, Does it entirely fit? No. Again, is it iconic? Yeah, I could say there is something kind of unique, and again, I think that all the parts are very interesting and very unique and are good in isolation. And I think you are correct. It doesn't all come together in a one cohesive art, bomb, whatever you want to describe it as. But I don't dislike them in isolation, and I don't particularly dislike them being used here. But I do get your point. I do feel like, yes, it's just, we're just listening to the best of Queen.
In a way, yeah. This film, I think, to wrap up, is like, I'm glad I watched it.
Sure.
I don't know if I'm ever going to watch it again. It's a shame that all the sequels are rubbish, because the lore itself...
You've not seen them, Mike. How do you know?
Because everyone I've ever met told me they are, and all of IMDb are horrendously lowly rated. But I think that it's annoying because the lore has the potential to be so good and so clever. So is the Henry Cavill thing, is that a movie or a series?
It's going to be a movie. I think they're planning a series, and I think they're using some elements from the TV show because he quite liked some of the stuff they did in the TV show. So I
would be happy to watch the Henry Cavill movie.
There's definitely. I think Russell Crowe is Ramirez as well.
I don't like Russell Crowe.
He's getting into apparently very good shape for it as well, so that'll be something. But yeah,
Russell Crowe is like Dave Batista of the modern day.
Batista is the Kurgan, and
okay, that could work.
And Henry Cavill is Conor McLeod, of course.
Yeah,
and they've got a few Scottish actors. I think Kevin McKidd from Trainspotting is going to be one of the Klansmen, and Drew McIntyre, who's a WWE wrestler, is going to be one of the Klansmen as well. Okay, one of the McLeods.
I was going to say Russell Crowe. I don't like Russell Crowe because I don't think, apart from maybe Gladiator, I don't think I've ever seen him in a role I actually like him in. He always seems miscast or just annoying. And also, he's a prick as well. It's like him and Brando and Sean Connery, all problematic pricks.
Yeah, sure.
Who all have an iconic role and can be great. But I think people kept putting them in everything when they shouldn't be in everything. No. There's so many roles they were all in, like, we probably shouldn't have done that, but we did it for the star power. And I'm like, just fuck off.
Yeah. It's also been directed by John Wick's Chad Stahelski. So that might be it. Which I'm hoping that's...
I'm excited about that, because I love him, and the John Wick movies are among my favourite franchises.
I'm hoping that they take that kind of gun fu aesthetic and fast-paced stuff and apply it to the sword fight.
I know Matrix has one or two sword fighty bits, and that's like... just well choreographed action. That's what I want. Yeah. Well choreographed action, cohesive dialogue, and some humor.
Good story,
and the lore is great. So I'm excited.
And they can and because they're starting absolutely fresh, it doesn't have to be for the prize. The prize doesn't have to be won here. No. They could have 3 films.
But the end when that happens in this film, though, with all the animated stuff, that looks really good.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, really, really good. I love that. It's very comic booky at the end when they're fighting on the rooftop and the signs coming down. I loved all that.
That looked great. It was just again the screaming. Yeah, that kind of ruined it a bit.
Yeah, I actually still quite like the sword fight. It's not perfect sword fighting.
I like it. The sounds are very satisfying.
Yeah, what they did as well to get the sparks is they had a wire going through their sleeves to a car battery, so then when they connect they'd have all
that's I saw it when they were sparking. I was like, that's really cool.
So that's how they did it. So when they collide, they go
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so that's a cool little thing I remembered. But yeah, I thought this would be an interesting one for you, and you would be a bit conflicted about it. And
It's a good experience, not a good movie.
Yeah. So it's a good viewing. I think that's fair. I think everything you said is fair. It's a fair critique. And I still like it. I still enjoy it. And then there's a lot of people, and again, clearly a lot of people do, because there was so many people that, when I bought us drinks and I came in, I was like, I'm never going to find him. I'm never going to find Mike in all this.
It is. Well, I did message you. I said,
I know, but I had 2 drinks about it. I was like, I can't look at my phone.
It was. It is the definition of cult classic. I think there's non-horror cult classic. I really think it is. I think I'm so glad I watched it.
Yeah,
I totally get why some people say they love this, because it is so wacky, it is so different.
And I think
it is so original.
I think if you saw this at an age where you were very impressionable, like Sam was saying with Lady Hawk, and some of the films she's seen, I think if you saw it at the right age, this would be your. Yeah, like Max likes it, I think Dave likes it, and various other people we know of, slightly older generation from ourselves do really like
seeing it as a kid. You wouldn't be bothered by all the plot holes.
Exactly.
And then as you get older, you would kind of already be, and then you'd understand the other stuff.
Yeah, and I think the thing about liking things is appreciating its flaws and faults, while still liking the stuff that is good.
Yeah, and this is very, very 80s as well.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I said. Like I said, it's a bit camp, it's a bit cheesy, it's very stylish, it's very 80s, and again, this Queen soundtrack makes it even more 80s.
It does,
and
for better or for worse.
Perhaps dates it as well, in a sense. But I think people will still be watching this in another 40 years.
Well, when the new one comes out, a lot of people are going to watch for that.
Absolutely, and even if that one's shit, they're going to watch the original, and
not the sequels.
And again, you might love the new one, you might prefer the new one and think the other one, and then it might be the opposite for most other people's opinions on it.
Certainly could be.
Yeah.
But we've spoken about Highlander for a long time.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
there's been tech issues and everything, and changes and all kinds of stuff.
All sorts.
So we've had this. That's it. We have the Quickening. So, friends, this is at the end of day 2 of Bigmore's Film Festival.
Halfway.
Yes, we've done a lot of recordings of the movie reviews and stuff, but make sure you follow, subscribe, whatever, to Spider Down the Secret Wars, and also Genuine Chit Chat.
Yes.
There's video versions of these, audio versions of them, of almost every film at Forbidden Worlds Film Festival 2026. There's going to be lots of clips of them. We've got some fun interviews as well.
Yes.
Audio recorded. Recorded 2. We've got a 3rd one coming as well.
Whatever else we can get hold of.
Yes, so loads of great stuff. Again, thank you for Forbidden Worlds Film Festival for letting us be on the press team. And if you like all this stuff and you're only just finding us, we did also tackle 2025 as well with all film reviews.
There's a huge
YouTube
playlist we have with all of our combined videos.
Yes.
And then the stuff I did when I was on my own the previous years as well. So there's a lot for you to catch up on if you've not even touched it.
Indeed. But friends, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we will speak to you very soon.